Welcome to SJB Radio. I'm your host, Billy, and we're here for March Madness, Bracketology 101, and I'm joined by Mr. Artigas and Mr. Harris. Mr. Artigas, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How you doing, everybody? Glad to be here.
I'm good, and we're also here now with Mr. Harris, his first time here, his first year here as assistant principal. Mr. Harris, do you think you're ready?
Yeah, I think I'll be all right. I'm looking at the brackets here. I know who I like and who I don't like, but I'm sure Mr. Artigas will have the edge here.
Yes, as usual.
All right, so we'll start off with our first four, the first four games of the tournament. They begin tomorrow. We have two 16s going against each other. We have Mount St. Mary's and New Orleans. A 16th seed has never beaten a 1 seed, but they still – who are you going to go with, Mr. Artigas?
I'm going to go Mount St. Mary's on this one, just simply because I've never seen New Orleans in a bracket before, and I know Mount St. Mary's has been in not – regularly, but at least once or twice from what I can remember. So I'll go with the program with a little bit more experience.
I'm on the same page as Mr. Artigas. New Orleans just doesn't have the tournament experience, so I'll go Mount St. Mary's.
I agree. I'm going to go with Mount St. Mary's as well. And then we have the other game with two 16 seeds, North Carolina Central or UC Davis. Who are you going with, Mr. Artigas?
I'm going to go UC Davis. I don't know anything about either of these teams, but I think that California has the edge over North Carolina.
I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'll go North Carolina just because that's near some good teams.
But those good teams take up all the good players. So there you go.
And then we have the other two games, the two 11 seeds. Providence. This one's an interesting one. Providence against USC. Who are you going to go with, Mr. Artigas?
Again, I'm going to go local. I'm going to go with Providence on this one. Big East fan, so we'll go Providence. I'm not a fan of the Trojans in any sport, to be honest with you, so we'll go Providence.
We're on the same page again. I think USC is just too big and slow, and Providence will run circles around them. So I'm going Providence.
I agree. I think Providence has a tougher conference to play in each year, and especially this season, so I'm going to go with Providence as well. And then first four game, we have Kansas State against Wake Forest. This is another interesting matchup because, as it's shown, the 11th seed can sometimes make noise in the tournament. So who are you going to go with?
I'm going Wake Forest. Kansas State hasn't been playing very well lately, and early exit in the conference tournament, so I'm going to go Wake Forest.
Agreed. Wake Forest, Big East basketball, all the way.
Even though they're in the ACC.
Oh, they're in the ACC.
Okay, so now that we filled out the first four, we go with round one, which will begin on Thursday. And we'll start with the East region. We have the first game, which is defending champs, Villanova. They're going to play whoever wins Mount St. Mary's or New Orleans. I don't think it makes a difference anyway. The 1 seed's never lost to a 16th seed. I don't think it will happen here. What do you think, Mr. Artigas?
I don't think so either. I think Villanova's played great basketball all year. I saw them live once this year when they played St. John's, and they looked great in that game. So I'm going to go Villanova.
Doesn't matter who wins the playing game, Villanova all the way.
All right, then we have an 8 versus 9. We have Wisconsin versus Virginia Tech. This one could really go either way. So beware of who you pick because this could wreck up your bracket. Who are you going with, Mr. Artigas?
Going with Wisconsin. I like Wisconsin. I like the way they play. Their program's had a lot of success in the past. This is considered a little bit of a down year for them, even though they're ranked and everything. Virginia Tech's not a normal team you see in the bracket, so I'm going to go again with the experienced program and go with Wisconsin.
I'm going to go with Virginia Tech in this. I don't like the way Wisconsin played in the Big Ten tournament. Defense seemed a little slow, so I'm going Virginia Tech.
I'm going to go with Virginia Tech, too. I think they have a tougher conference to play in than Wisconsin. The Big Ten hasn't been as strong this year. The ACC has been very strong. Next, we have 5 Virginia versus UNC Willingham. That's a 5 versus 12. That's a potential upset. The 12th seed always seems to be the 5 once in a while. Who are you going to go with, Mr. Artigas?
I'm going UNC Wilmington to beat Virginia. Every year Virginia gets in the tournament. Every year it seems like they exit a lot sooner than people think. UNC Wilmington was here last year. They pushed, I forget who they played, but they pushed whoever that was to the buzzer pretty much, even though they lost a tough game. I could see them winning a game. A lot of the same guys back from last year on this team, so I'm going to go with the upset with Wilmington.
I was very tempted to pick this upset, but I'm going to go Virginia because I think they play strong D, so I'm going to go Virginia.
I'm going to go with Virginia, too. I think this is finally their year that they could actually move far in the tournament and maybe not go all the way but make some noise. Next, we have Florida, the 4th seed, versus ETSU, 4 versus 13. Who are you going to go with, Mr. Artigas?
I'm going Florida here. I've heard some whispers of a potential upset here, but I don't see it. I'm going to go with the Gators.
Yeah, a lot of people picking the upset here, but I'm not. I'm going with Florida.
Okay, then we have 6 seed SMU versus whoever wins the Providence or USC game. Do you think it makes a difference? Do you think SMU can beat either team, Mr. Artigas?
I did take SMU to win the first round game, regardless of who they play from the play-in game. I think SMU's had a great year so far in a very underrated AAC conference. Pretty much ran the table in their conference play, had some big wins out of conference. So I think SMU is one of those surprise teams of the tournament, and I'm going with them to win this one.
I'll take SMU as well. It doesn't matter. Providence, USC, very good team. 31 wins, I think, this year. They're pretty solid, so we'll go SMU.
And then we have 3-seeded Baylor versus 14-seed New Mexico State. Baylor always seems to get into the tournament with a good record, but then they do not do well in the tournament. Last year, an example of that. Do you think Baylor will avoid the upset against New Mexico State?
I think Baylor will avoid the upset against New Mexico State. I agree with you. They always seem to get in with a pretty high seed and then disappoint and exit early. But I think there'll be a little bit too much for New Mexico State in this one.
Baylor flying to the second round.
And then we have 7-seed South Carolina versus 10-seed Marquette. This is always a 7 versus 10, a potential upset pick. Do you think Marquette will pull off the upset?
No, I'm going to go with SC in this one. I went back and forth. This was a tough one to pick. I could really see either team winning this game, but I went with South Carolina based purely on the conference that they play in and the fact that they've won a couple more games than Marquette during the regular season.
I'm going to take Marquette in this. No reason other than I don't really have many upsets other than this, so I'm going to go Marquette.
Okay, then last game of the first round in the East region, we have the number 2 seed Duke Blue Devils against Troy. Duke's been upset a couple times a couple years ago as the 2 seed. Do you see it happening again?
No, not this year. Duke is flying high right now. They're probably playing as well as anybody in the country as of late. It pains me to say it because I really am not a fan of Duke, but I can't see them losing this first round game. So Duke to advance.
No chance Dukes lose this. As much as I can root against them, they're gonna fly through Troy. So as much as I like to see them lose, they're going pretty far.
All right, so now we'll move on to the West region in the first round games. We have number 1 seed Gonzaga against the 16th seed South Dakota State. Gonzaga always seems to go in as a top seed. They had one loss this whole season, but they seem to falter in the tournament. Do you see them faltering here against the 16th seed?
Not here, but eventually. I'm not sold on Gonzaga. I don't think they've really played anybody this year. This may be the best Gonzaga team we've seen going into the tournament in the last 10 years or so, but I can't see them going to the final. We'll put it that way, but I do think that they'll get through this first round game.
They'll definitely get through this first round game. I'm sure they'll win 2 games, but I agree with Mr. Artigas. I don't see them going to the Final Four. We'll have to take a look at the bracket later on to see if they make it to the 8, but definitely making through the first round.
And then we have 8-seeded Northwestern against 9th-seeded Vanderbilt. This is, as I said, 8 versus 9, always a potential upset either way. Who are you going to go with, Mr. Artigas?
I went with Northwestern here, really, just because I have to. My wife's sister is a Northwestern alum, so I'd get in trouble if I didn't pick them.
I think they're on tournament victory hangover here. First tournament appearance for Northwestern school's history. That's Vanderbilt's taking this one.
I agree. And then we have Notre Dame against Princeton. So, Mr. Artigas, who are you going to go with?
Oh, Princeton is a great school. A lot of really smart people in Princeton. I'm not sure how well they play basketball, though, so I'm going to go Notre Dame on this one.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time the Ivy League even had a conference tournament. So
that's right, yeah.
Perhaps they're a bit tired, too. So I'm going Notre Dame as well.
And then we have 4th seed West Virginia against 13th seed Bucknell. West Virginia's had a very good season this year. Do you see them moving on in the first round?
Absolutely. I'm a big West Virginia fan this season. I think they're playing great basketball. They do what they do better than almost anybody else out there. So I'm going West Virginia to beat Bucknell in the first round.
West Virginia all the way.
And then we have 6th-seeded Maryland against 11th-seed Xavier. This is a potential trap game. I think, in my opinion, I'm going to go with Xavier. Who are you going to go with, Mr. Artigas?
I'm going Xavier also. I don't like the way that Maryland's been playing lately, and I think they're primed for a first-round exit this year, so Xavier.
Yeah, Maryland didn't really finish up the way you want, so I'm going Xavier as well.
And then we have 3 seed Florida State against 14 seed Florida Gulf Coast. They've been famous in the tournament before, making it to the Sweet 16. Do you see them upsetting Florida State here?
You know, Florida State is a tough team to kind of figure because I've seen them play some great basketball this year. I've seen them play as badly as anybody this year. So they're kind of one of those inconsistent teams, which doesn't bode well for them as we move through the tournament. But I'm going to go with Florida State and say they'll at least win their first round game.
Yeah, I thought this was a bit high 3 seed for Florida State, and they're playing Florida Gulf Coast in Orlando. So it's both teams' backyard. So it could be a close game, but I don't see Florida Gulf pulling this one out. So we'll go Florida State just for the first round.
And then we have 7 seed St. Mary's against 10 seed VCU. This is a potential upset game. I'm going to go with the upset pick VCU. Who are you going with, Mr. Artigas?
You know, I'm usually a big fan of VCU. I've seen this team play a couple times this year, and this VCU team doesn't strike me as energetic and as efficient as a lot of the old VCU teams that I'm used to. So I'm going to go with St. Mary's in this one.
Yeah, their conference tournament, they had a couple close games, so they could have easily lost in the first, second round of their conference tournament. In fact, they went to overtime and lost in their conference tournament. But I do like VCU to win just their first round game. But it's a moot point because both teams will lose to Arizona next round anyway. But I'll go VCU for the first round.
And then the last game of the Western region in the first round, we have Arizona, the 2 seed, versus North Dakota. Who you going to go with, Mr. Artigas?
I'm going Arizona. I don't think it requires much explanation. Arizona's one of the best teams in the country. I have no idea of anybody on North Dakota, so we'll go Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona, definitely.
Okay, so now we move to the Midwestern region bracket. We begin with number 1 seed Kansas versus whoever wins the NC Central or UC Davis game. I don't think it makes a difference here. Kansas is a very strong team. I think they will win their first round game. Well, you think you agree, Mr. Artigas?
Yeah, no 16 seed ever beating the number 1. It's not going to happen here. Kansas advances.
This isn't going to be the 16 seed this year. Maybe sometime, but not this one.
And then we have number 8 seed Miami, Florida against number 9 Michigan State. Again, a potential either way game. I'm going to go with Michigan State to win. Who are you going with, Mr. Artigas?
I went with Miami. I don't like the way Michigan State's playing. This isn't a typical Michigan State Tom Izzo team. Coach Izzo's been known to do some great things in the tournament in the past, so I could see them winning this game, but I'm going based on the regular season here, so I took Miami.
Miami definitely had a better year. Michigan State is a down year for them, but it's tough to go against Tom Izzo in the tournament, and I think they pull one win. So we'll go Michigan State.
And then we have 5 seed Iowa State against 12 seed Nevada. Again, a potential upset game. I'm going to go with Nevada. Who are you going to go with, Mr. Artigas?
I went Iowa State. You're right, 5-12 is often prime for an upset. Iowa State historically has underperformed in the tournament in the past, but I think they'll win at least one game this year. I really like this Iowa State team. They play fast, they play hard, and I'm going to go with them in this one.
It's really hard for me to root for Iowa State. It just pains me. Back when they were a 2 seed in 2001 with Jamal Tinsley, they had them going all the way to the finals, and they lost to Hampton, one of the only times a 2 seed. So I typically pick them to lose their first round matchup just because it still pains me, but I don't see them losing this one. So we'll go Iowa State this one.
And then we have 4th seeded Purdue against 13th seed Vermont. Purdue in the Big Ten, they've had a strong season this year. Do you think they'll beat Vermont, Mr. Artigas?
This game could be a potential upset in the making. Vermont has got a very solid program, but I went Purdue. Just too much talent for Vermont to run with them.
Yeah, I tossed this one around. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to go Purdue as well. But I think it's going to be close.
And then we have 6 seed Creighton against 11 seed Rhode Island. Again, a potential upset for Rhode Island. I think Creighton will still win. What do you think, Mr. Artigas?
Rhode Island's been playing really well as of late. They won their conference tournament as, I think, a 4 seed. But overall, just a kind of an average at best regular season, so I went Creighton on this one.
I think Rhode Island finished up where you want to finish, so they're flying high. Good year for their conference, too. I'm going to go Rhode Island here.
And then then we have 3 seed Oregon against 14 seed Iona. Oregon's had a very strong season. At the beginning of the year, they were even in the top in the country, but they've fallen a little bit. I still think Oregon will beat Iona. What do you think, Mr. Artigas?
Well, this game's a little personal for me, as my wife and I are both Iona alumni. We met at Iona, so Iona's been good to me. But at the same time, my wife's sister is the head women's lacrosse coach at the University of Oregon, so I kind of have family in both places. I went with my head on this one instead of my heart, and I took Oregon to win the game. I'm just hoping Iona doesn't embarrass themselves.
Yeah, Oregon had a great year. I think they'd be in a much different position now had they not suffered a devastating injury. I think they really could have made some noise, but losing Boucher really hurts them, but there's no way they're losing to Iona.
And then we have the number 7 seed Michigan versus 10 Oklahoma State. Not a typical year for Michigan. They were a little down this year. They're usually stronger in the Big Ten. But I still think Michigan will not upset, but I think they'll beat Oklahoma State. What do you think, Mr. Artigas?
Yeah, I went with Michigan on this one. I think Michigan is one of the most underrated teams in the tournament. I think they have a chance to win a couple of games. So Michigan all the way, first round.
Yeah, I like Michigan here too. I love Coach Beeline. I love what he's doing with Michigan program since he's taken it maybe 5 years ago. But Oklahoma State doesn't have enough. Michigan is playing really well as anybody right now, so we'll go Michigan round 1.
And in the last game of the Midwest region in the first round, we have Louisville versus Jacksonville State. I think this will be easy win for Louisville. Do you agree, Mr. Artigas?
I do. I like Louisville big time in this game. Patino will have them ready to play. Louisville.
Yeah, no way Louisville loses this one. Definitely Louisville first round.
And in the last region in the first round, we have the southern region. First game is number 1 seed North Carolina against 16 seed Texas Southern. I'm going to go with North Carolina. They're one of the best teams in the country. 16 seed, as we said, has never won. Do you agree, Mr. Artigas?
Yep, UNC all the way. Miss Doherty's brother, big-time player for UNC back in the day, so I'd be in trouble with her if I picked against them here, so UNC.
Yeah, I value my boss here, and I'm going to yield to North Carolina because of the Doherty family, so North Carolina.
Then we have 8 seed Arkansas versus number 9 Seton Hall. Again, a potential game either way. I'm going to go with Seton Hall. I think they've played in a tough conference at the Big East. There's been some good teams there this year. What do you think, Mr. Artigas?
I went Seton Hall, also went with the local team. I actually had the privilege of seeing a lot of the guys on Seton Hall play when I worked at Holy Cross in Queens. A lot of them played in some of the other Catholic high schools in Brooklyn and stuff. They recruit heavily from there, so I went with the local team, Seton Hall.
Yeah, I like Seton Hall too. Good conference. Like Mr. Artigas had mentioned, they pull from the city Catholic school system. A lot of good players there, so I'll go Seton Hall.
And then we have maybe the most potential 5 versus 12 chance for an upset, I think, in my opinion. Minnesota or Middle Tennessee. I'm going to go with Middle Tennessee here. I think they can upset Minnesota. Do you think so too, Mr. Artigas?
I went Middle Tennessee on this also. I'm not really sold on Minnesota. They're a team you don't typically see in the tournament. And Middle Tennessee was here last year, again, kind of similar to UNC Wilmington. A lot of the same guys back on this team, or back in the tournament from this team from last year, so I went Middle Tennessee with the upset.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people they graduated from last year, but just having that tournament experience helps. I think Minnesota just, they don't have it. I think Middle Tennessee pulls this one out.
And then we have 4th seeded Butler against 13 seed Winthrop. I'm going to go Butler. I think they've had a good season. I don't see any potential here for an upset.
Butler's a senior-heavy team with guards that don't turn the ball over. They know how to play. They play well together. I went Butler here over Winthrop.
Me too, Mr. Artigas.
And then we have 6 seeded Cincinnati against 11 seed. Whoever wins the Kansas State or Wake Forest game. I don't think it makes a difference. I think Cincinnati's had a good season. I'm going to go with Cincinnati. Do you agree, Mr. Artigas?
Cincinnati's another team I think is a little bit underrated by the committee and by everybody who kind of does this stuff. So I went Cincinnati first round.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cincinnati as well. I like their program. I have for a long time, ever since they were in Conference USA, but I like Cincinnati a lot.
And then we have 3 seed UCLA against 14 seed Kent State. UCLA started off the season very hot. They've fallen a little bit down to the 3 seed, but I still think they're a very strong team. I think they can go far. I don't see an upset here. What do you think, Mr. Artigas?
I like UCLA a lot. I really like Lonzo Ball and everything that he's been able to do this year. He's a potential lottery pick, and I think UCLA takes care of business first round.
Yeah, I like UCLA a lot this year. I think they're going to make a lot of noise. They're going to win a couple games, I think. Ball's great. I think there was a bit of a scare a couple days ago when he jammed his thumb. Fortunately, it was his off shooting hand, so that's not really going to affect him all that much, even if he does have some lasting injury. But UCLA's great. Ball's got a couple younger brothers coming up too, so yeah, UCLA definitely.
If he stays until he's a senior, they'll have all three of them at the same time. Two of them signed already.
And then we have 7 seed Dayton against 10 seed Wichita State. I'm picking the upset going Wichita State. I always feel that they're underrated by the committee. Do you agree with an upset here?
I do. I took Wichita. This game is tough. Dayton's also a very good team. Dayton's a team that was in the tournament last year also. But I did go Wichita mostly because I've been hearing about how good they are. How good they really are is still kind of up in the air because of the weak schedule that they played. But I took Wichita for the upset here.
Yeah, Wichita State comes in the top 10, top 15 in a lot of the national scoring rankings. It is attributed to some of the conference that they play. But if you heard John Calipari saying how the misseeding doesn't affect the teams below them, affects the teams above them, I think this is the game to which he was referring because if Wichita State pulls this out, they have to play them in round 2, and I think they're a lot better than a 10 seed. So Wichita State.
In the last game of the Southern region, we have number 2 Kentucky against 15 Northern Kentucky. I think Kentucky will go away and win handily this one. Do you agree, Mr. Artigas?
Yes, got Kentucky winning their first round game. Yep.
Yeah, we'll go Kentucky here. No way Northern Kentucky. I think this is going to be a blowout.
Okay, now that everyone picked their first round games because Mr. Artigas and Mr. Harris, their picks have varied, I'm just going to ask Mr. Artigas who he thinks from each region is going to go to the Final Four, and then we'll go from there, and we'll pick the final. So, Mr. Artigas, who do you have from each region going to the Final Four?
All right, I'll actually go. I'll start with my Elite Eight picks. I have in the East, Villanova losing to Duke, which again pains me to pick Duke to go into the Final Four, but I just don't see anybody in the country playing better than they are right now. So, in the East, Duke over Villanova to win the East.
I've got the same Elite Eight matchup. I don't think there's any way Villanova and Duke do not make it to the Elite Eight. But I'm going to go the opposite way on this, only because I don't like rooting for Duke. Although they are probably one of the best teams in the country, a lot of people are arguing that they should have been a 1 seed because they won the conference tournament. From what I understand, they start the seeding process on a Wednesday, and then you move from that seed based on your conference tournament's results. And I think they started on a 4 line, and because they won the conference tournament, they moved up 2 spots. But I'm going to go Villanova in the Final Four from the East.
And then in the Western region, who are you going to go with, Mr. Artigas, into the Final Four?
I have in the West, Arizona defeating West Virginia to win the West region. I have Gonzaga losing to West Virginia in the Sweet 16. Again, I don't buy into the Gonzaga hype. So, West Virginia losing to Arizona.
I have Arizona beating Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga's a good team. They were ranked 1 for a lot of the season, but I don't think they're the best team in the country. They're a top team, most likely even a top 5 team, but I don't think they get through Arizona.
I agree. In the East, I had Duke going on to the Final Four. In the West, I have Notre Dame beating Xavier. I think Notre Dame can make a surprise run in that bracket. I think Xavier, too, can also make a surprise run. I don't have complete faith yet in Arizona, so I think Notre Dame will play Duke in the Final Four round. And then in the Midwest, I have Louisville beating Michigan State. Who do you have, Mr. Artigas?
I have Kansas beating Michigan in the Midwest bracket. Kansas, to me, has the easiest road to the Elite Eight. I have them beating Miami, then beating Iowa State. And again, I think Michigan is one of the most underrated teams in the country, playing as well as anybody right now. So I had Michigan upsetting Louisville and Oregon to make it to the Elite Eight, and then going down to Kansas. So Kansas coming out of the Midwest.
Yeah, I think this might be the weakest division of the 4. Kansas does have a very easy road. I really wish Oregon was at full strength because I'm really tempted to pick them here. But because of their injury, I'm going to have them losing to Louisville. So it comes down to Louisville versus Kansas in an Elite Eight matchup, and I'm going to go Louisville.
And then finally, in the Southern region, I have North Carolina losing to Kentucky. I have Kentucky going to the Final Four. Who do you have, Mr. Artigas?
I have UCLA coming out of the South. Again, I really think they have a lot of talent, a little bit inconsistent, a little bit young, but they have some experience from last year, and I'm not completely sold on UNC. I have UCLA beating UNC to come out of the South, but I could even see UNC losing to Butler in the Sweet 16, to be honest with you. I like Kentucky, but again, not sold on them. They have a tough road. They have to play Wichita or Dayton. I'm going Wichita. So I think UCLA out of the South.
This is the premier conference of the four. You look at all the programs in this. This is the by far the most difficult road to the Final Four. I'm going to go with UNC. The only reason I'm going with UNC is because Duke's not in this bracket. They lost 2 or 3 this year, and if it weren't for Duke, they might have been the top seed. So I'm going to go UNC over UCLA in the Elite 8 game. I say UCLA beats Kentucky, and UNC pulls that game out.
Okay, so now we're going to go through our Final Four picks and go to the national championship game. In the first one, I have Duke against Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to pull off the upset, and Notre Dame will go to the finals. Who do you have, Mr. Artigas, in your first Final Four game?
First Final Four game, I have two seeds. I have Duke playing Arizona, and because I can't in good conscience endorse Duke or pick Duke, I have Arizona beating Duke to make it to the national championship game.
This pick of mine is simply because I'm a former math teacher and going with probabilities. The probability of having a repeat finals matchup is very slim. I do like UNC to beat Louisville to make it to the national championship game, but I'm going to take Arizona to beat Villanova for an Arizona-UNC finals matchup. And of those two teams, I'm going to go with UNC to win the national championship.
And in the other Final Four game, I have Louisville against Kentucky. I have Kentucky winning that and playing Notre Dame in the championship. I have Notre Dame winning the national championship. And I think, just to say again, Mr. Artigas, who you have winning the national championship?
On the other side, I had Kansas playing UCLA in a Final Four matchup. Kansas coming out of that and losing to Arizona in the national championship game. So I have Arizona winning a national title this year for the first time in quite a while.
You know, there's a lot of different ways you can go with these brackets, but the key to winning a bracket is making sure you don't lose a Final Four, final, or final champions. It's the first round, although important, is still 32 points per round, but take that into consideration. It's 32 points per round, regardless of the number of games that you pick. So those late picks tend to be very important. If you lose one of those Final Four matchups, you're likely to not win your bracket.
Okay, and that's all we have here today at SJB Radio. I want to thank Mr. C for setting this up, and I want to thank Mr. Artigas and Mr. Harris for joining us today. And that's all. Thank you.